In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a skinny Synclastic bracelet. We're going to start with a strip of Cranston fancy wire available from PotterUSA, and I am going to anneal this strip. It's actually about 16 gauge, so it's pretty heavy, and because we're going to do some intense forming with the hydraulic press, it needs to be nice and soft. So I'm just going to heat it up to annealing temperature here and then pickle it. And then once it's all clean and rinsed and dry, we can head over to the hydraulic press. And here I'm using the skinny Synclastic bracelet former. And I'm just making sure everything is all centered in my press, making sure the urethane is centered, and then I can begin forming. I'm going to use this former to form the entirety of this bracelet. So I'm just going to start on one end and slowly work my way all the way around. Usually it's helpful to start on one end and form to about halfway and then flip the bracelet around and form from the other direction. Just helps you to see what you're doing a little bit better. And this skinny Synclastic former has a round radius. So it's going to form this bracelet in a circular shape. And the human wrist is not a circle. Okay, so you can see it formed this nice and circular, but what we want to do is we want to kind of neck in those areas where the wrist is going to be, because the wrist is actually oval. So I'm going to swap out that skinny Synclastic former and put in the small skinny Synclastic former, which has a smaller radius. And I can use that to form just the wrist areas of this bracelet, and it will take the shape from a circle to an oval, which is what you want for a cuff bracelet, because the wrist is really more of an oval than it is a circle. So I'm just using this on that wrist area of the bracelet. I'm not forming the whole bracelet with this, just the sides. Gonna have to open it up a little bit to get it off the frame here. So you can see how it took that from round to oval, and it's much more wrist shaped now. So now we're gonna flip it and do the other side. Make sure everything is centered. And then slide that back onto the frame and form the other wrist area. So you just kind of inch it along, forming step by step. And these formers give the bracelet a beautiful Synclastic shape. It's a compound curve. So not only does it curve around the wrist, but it also is slightly domed. And it's just a really beautiful shape. So you can see that's much more wrist shaped now. And that gap is a little narrow. I need to go remove some material so that I'm actually able to get that onto my wrist. It would have been easier to do that ahead of time before I formed it, but I didn't, so we're gonna go saw it off now. So I'm just gonna remove a little bit from either side. The standard is about a 1-inch gap with bracelets, but it depends on the person, what they're most comfortable with. So I'm just using my jeweler's saw to remove a small amount of metal from either side so that I have a larger gap to fit the bracelet onto the wrist. Alright, and then after I've removed that material, I can just use my file to round those ends and make it smoother so that it goes onto the wrist more easily. It's a nicer shape. So I'm just going to round those ends off with my file here. You can see how it's nice and rounded. And I'm going to do that to all sides. And then I'm just going to use some flex shaft tools to smooth and sand out those edges. And it looks like it's going to fit great now. So now just a patina and polish and it'll be finished. Ta-da! A really beautiful, simple bracelet in just a few minutes with Cranston fancy wire and the PotterUSA skinny Synclastic former and small skinny Synclastic former.